Hi and welcome back to another episode. In this episode we're going to be setting up VLANs. I have done a video on this before, but in this video I thought we'd have a slightly different take on setting up the VLANs. We're going to be setting up some different VLANs to what I have done before, so you might find this video helpful as well. And it's obviously updated and makes use of the UniFi network updates since the last video was produced. So to confirm, you need to be on version 7.4.156 of the UniFi network controller. For the UniFi OS version, I'm using UniFi OS on a UDM Pro, and it is version 3.0.20. So providing you are on at least both of those two versions for the UniFi OS and UniFi network, you should have no problem in following this guide on how to create VLANs and allocate the associated client devices into their new VLANs. So if you've followed my network setup series, you'll know that I've connected various devices such as Philips Hue, Hub, wireless access point, UNVR, G4 doorbell and the smart chime, for example. And obviously with these new devices, I've decided to set up some new VLANs. So let's get this video started. So from the diagram that I produced, which you can see on screen at the moment, we have the various VLANs which I've created, most of the network devices and clients that connect to the network on the left here and also on the right hand side here. They've all been color coded so that you can easily follow which device goes onto which VLAN. The VLANs that I'm proposing to create are shown in the center diagrams here. So for example, Home Automation VLAN, a Security VLAN, a Smartphones and Tablets VLAN, a Main Network, which is not obviously the VLAN, that's just the main network, and then also we have a Multi Media VLAN. Now for the Home Automation VLAN, I'm planning on connecting the Philips Hue bridge and the Philips Hue client devices to that Home Automation VLAN so that they are in their own network. Then for the 10GT2 2.4 GHz wireless network, which is solely being used at the moment for security devices such as my G4 doorbell and my smart chime, I'm going to put those into a security VLAN. Then for the 10GT5, which is the 5 GHz wireless network, I just use this for general connections such as smartphones and tablets, so we'll put that in their own VLAN away from the main network. Then we'll create a multimedia VLAN for the smart TV, the satellite TV box and my network audio player, so they will be in their own multimedia VLAN. And then for the main network, which has all wired devices connected to it, there are no wireless devices, we will have the backup NAS, the laser printer, the main NAS, my desktop PC, which is the main one I use, and also my two voice over IP telephones. They are also wired. So all these coded in red colour will be connected to the main network, and as I say, they are all connected via Cat6 cables. So in order to set up the VLANs, we first need to go into our UniFi OS and log in to your UniFi network. Once you have done that, you should be presented with your UniFi network dashboard, as you'll see on screen at the moment. So to create the VLANs, we first need to select the cog or the gear icon from the left hand side, which is for settings, which will then take you into the default screen which is the first one for Wi-Fi. Here you will see the two Wi-Fi networks that I've already created, which I showed you me creating in the previous video in the full network setup series. So if you want to see how I've done that, go and take a look at one of the prior videos where I'm setting up the wireless networks. So to set up the VLANs, we first need to select Networks from the menu at the left hand side, which is shown under Wi-Fi. As you'll see, I'm hovering over here. Then this should bring up the networks. Here you will see that I've got the default network, which is already set up. And then under that we have virtual networks. Here you need to select Create New. Under the network name, we'll give it the first network name. So from the diagram which I created and which I've just shown you, the first one is Home Automation VLAN. So we will name this as the network name Home Automation VLAN. The router will be router 1, which is the default. And then under Gateway IP Subnet, you will see that Auto Scale Network is ticked. You can actually leave that as ticked, and if you see underneath that there's some options which have been greyed out, just ignore those for the time being. But underneath that you will see that we have the gateway IP of 192.168.2.1, then the broadcast IP, and then usable IPs and the IP range. So the IP range is what will be used to connect your client devices to. So this is the IP address range which your client devices will pick from when they connect to your VLAN. You can leave these all as default, and for the time being under advanced you can leave this set to auto. Now for this Home Automation VLAN we need to connect the Philips Hue bridge. I'll show you how to do that shortly. So going back to this screen, under advanced we have this selected as automatic, and then click add. And then it will say successfully saved network Home Automation VLAN. So now you will see under networks that we have the default network, and then underneath that we have virtual networks. It's called Home Automation. However, you'll see that the characters at the end, the letter N under automation, has actually been omitted. That's because of the character limit on the line. However, it is actually called Home Automation VLAN. If you see me hovering over it now, the actual full name that it's actually recorded is Home Automation VLAN, so that's okay. So the next network we need to create is the security VLAN. So under virtual networks you need to select Create New, and then from the top box under network name we'll enter the second VLAN name, which is called Security VLAN. And then again we can leave those options all as default and click add. Then this will take you back to the list of networks, as you'll see, and here now we have two virtual networks created. First one being Home Automation VLAN and the second one Security VLAN. So the third VLAN we need to create is going to be called Smartphones and Tablets VLAN. So again, under Virtual Networks, select Create New, and under the network name we will be naming this Smartphones and Tablets VLAN, and again leave all the options set as default and click add. You will then be taken back to the list of networks yet again, and here you will see that we now have the three VLANs created. So for the final VLAN, which is the fourth one, we need to call it Multi Media VLAN. So again, select Create New. Under the network name, we will enter Multi Media VLAN, and again click Add. You will then be taken back to the list of networks. So to review these, we have under the list of virtual networks, we have Home Automation VLAN, Multi Media VLAN, Security VLAN, and Smartphones and Tablets VLAN. So smartphone ampersand tablets VLAN. So those are all the 4 VLANs that we need creating. So now that the VLANs have all been set up, so the next thing we need to do is to allocate the Wi-Fi networks to their associated VLANs. So if we go back to the diagram that I created, we have the wireless network VLANs, the 2 of them. So for 10GT2, as in the wireless network name, we have the 2.4 GHz wireless network, and that needs to be allocated to the security VLAN, and then the 10GT5 needs to be allocated to the smartphones and tablets VLAN. So to do this, we need to go to, so from the UniFi controller and the list of virtual networks we have here, we need to select Wi-Fi. So that's the option above networks in the list. So this will take you into the list of Wi-Fi networks. So we already have the 2 wireless networks created, and which, as I say, I've shown you how to do in a previous full network setup series video. So if you need to refer to that, please do take a look back through the videos and you'll find it. So the first one is 10GT2. So if we click on that, this will bring up all of the various options which have been created for that wireless network. So under name, we have 10GT-2, and then the Wi-Fi access password, which of course is grayed out. Then underneath that we have network. Now this is what we need to refer to and be amending. So at the moment you'll see it's allocated to the default network, which is the main network, the main wired LAN, as it were. So we need to change this and move it so that any device connected wirelessly to the 10GT-2 wireless network pick up their device IP addresses and get allocated into the VLAN. So the VLAN we need to put these into is the security network. So under network you will see default. So click default. This will then show you the drop down list of networks. So for 10GT2 we need to select security VLAN. Now if you recall from the diagram, the security VLAN is for devices such as security cameras, G4 bullets, G5 bullets, or whatever you're using. And also in my case it's for my G4 doorbell and also the associated smart chime which rings when the doorbell is pressed. So those are the only 2 security devices I have on the network at the moment, but in a later video I will be adding security cameras, and these will be also allocated and be connecting to this security wireless VLAN. So underneath that you can then click apply changes, and then it should say changes to 10GT-2 were successfully applied. So now under the list of Wi-Fi networks here, you'll see that 10GT-2 is now connected to the security VLAN under the network name. So moving on, for the 10GT-5 wireless network, we need to allocate this to the smartphones and tablets VLAN, which is going to be used for connecting smartphones, tablets and other wireless devices as and when required. So click on 10GT-5. This will then bring up all of the options for that particular wireless network. So again, under network, you will see that it's selected as default. So click on default to bring up the drop down list, and then select smartphones and tablets VLAN. Then click apply changes. So that completes allocating the wireless networks or the Wi-Fi networks into their associated VLANs. Select the third icon down, which is for UniFi devices. So this is the icon that looks like a circle within another circle. So it's the third option down and it's for UniFi devices. So select this. Then you will be taken into the list of UniFi devices where you will see your router, switches, wireless access points, doorbell chime, G4 doorbell and any other devices that you might have. So firstly we will click on switch, and then from the drop down menu that appears at the right hand side we will select ports, which is the next option along from overview, and then when the ports menu appears you will see that the list of ports and these icons appear. So from there you need to select port manager, so click on this and this will then take you in to another screen with a list of all the ports associated to the switch that you are configuring. If you haven't already done so, you need to make a note of which device is connected to which port number on your switches. Whether you have one or two or more switches, you need to go through each port, make a note of which device is connected to which port, so that you know which port to reallocate to the associated correct VLAN. So I know that the first port I need to change is for the Philips Hue bridge, and this is on port number 2. So I will click on port number 2 here, and then you will see that the port 2 options appears below the list of ports. So under network you will see that it's showing default under the primary network. So what we need to do is move this port into so you need to click on the word default under network, and this will bring the drop down list. So from the drop down list we need to put the Philips Hue bridge, which is connected to port number 2, into the Home Automation VLAN. So here we will select Home Automation and click apply changes. This will then reconfigure that port so that it moves it from the default network into the associated VLAN, and therefore it gives it a new IP address. This is for the wireless access point, however this needs to be left as it is. So the next port we need to change is port number 12, and I can confirm that although it's greyed out, port number 12 is for the smart TV. So click on this, click on port number 12. This will again bring up the port options below it, and under network, as you'll see, the primary network is selected as default, so we need to move this into the Multi Media VLAN. So from the drop down list select Multi Media VLAN and click apply changes. Then the next one that needs to be moved into the Multi Media VLAN is port number 14. So click on this and then under Network again, select Multi Media VLAN and click Apply Changes. Then port number 16, which is greyed out at the moment as the device is actually powered off. We need to select this one, and then under Network, this also needs to go into the Multimedia VLAN. And this is for my network audio player, which I use to play internet radio stations, stream media, music, for example, to it from my network, and also use it as a sound bar. Now, the next port is port number 18 and port number 20. These are both connected to voice over IP telephones, and these need to reroute the main default network. So the next port along, which is connected to a client device, is port number 24. This is for my laser printer. So that completes configuring the first switch with the associated ports. So that completes configuring of the associated ports on the switch. So each device should now connect to its own correct VLAN. So to test this, I will power up my TV, which is on port number 12, and which you'll see has just illuminated itself under port number 12. So if we click on port number 12, you'll see that it's allocated to the Multimedia VLAN. Then we'll click on port number 12 again to deselect it. And then from the list of clients, and to get into the list of clients that are connected, we can check that it's connected itself to its correct VLAN and picked up its correct new IP address from the ones associated automatically to that VLAN. So to select client devices, you need to select the fourth icon down, which looks like a computer screen with two little devices next to it. So select client devices. Then you will see that the SMTV01 device name, which is a Panasonic vendor and which is connected to switch number 1 and port number 12, has a new IP address of 192.168.5.104. So looking at the list of client devices that are connected to my network, you'll see here that the Philips Hue bridge is still actually connected and picking up its IP address from the main default network, as it still has a 192.168.0 IP range. So in order to refresh the device so that it picks up a new IP address, I suggest the easiest option for you would be to just power off and then power on the relevant device that needs a new IP address. So I can see from my list of devices I need to power on and off the Philips Hue bridge, and also my satellite TV box, which is listed as SATV01 and which is actually listed twice, and that's showing as still having a 192.168.0 IP address. So again, I will need to power off that device, wait 2 or 3 minutes, and then reconnect the power to that device so that it picks up a new IP address. So let's go and do those two devices. So I've just powered off and powered on those two devices. You will now see the Philips Hue bridge, which has now changed its friendly device name. However, it is the Philips Hue bridge. Now has a new IP address in the range 192.168.2 range. So we can now confirm that that has actually reconnected itself into the correct VLAN and taken itself a new IP address. For the satellite TV box, so SATV01, we can also see that this has picked up a new IP address of 192.168.5 range. So that confirms that that has also reallocated itself into the correct VLAN that we created. So this completes setting up VLANs. Thanks for watching, take care, bye for now.